So, an experiment, a CivStory. So this is basically going to be a playthrough where I try to make it seem like we're going through the history of, in this case, Poland, which we have randomed. So at the beginning of every era, we're going to talk about how a game's going strategically. We'll just run through Poland quickly. So, religion founded by Poland, it becomes the majority if a city loses a tile to a Polish culture bomb. Okay. And then we've got holy sites gain standard faith adjacency from adjacent districts. All relics provide bonus faith. So we want lots of relics. We get culture bombs for encampments, forts, just encampments or forts. We get one military policy slot. No, we convert a military policy into a wildcard slot. Okay. I've got the Winged Hussar, which is really, really good. We'll go into the Succulents first because I haven't changed the Succulents in any of my mods. Succulents? Succulents. Which is, it doesn't actually tell me what it replaces. It looks like a market though. We get plus trade routes from the city gain +2 production domestic, train routes gain +4 gold, +1 trade route capacity. Okay. We'll just look up the Winged Hussar. So in the mod that I'm playing, all unique units have to replace something, so in this case, Winged Hussar replaces at night. It's still available at Mercenaries, which is still very early. 55 strength is super powerful. Okay. So we probably want to go straight for Winged Hussars. We don't know where they are, but that's fine. Cool. We'll find our first city, so we have housing down here. So I'm automatically interested in that. I mean, we have a couple of... Okay, so our unique building requires... It is a market, so it needs a commercial hub. So we need to think about where we're going to get a commercial hub. That suggests to me this is going to be a lake. Is it worth moving 2 tiles to get access to a lake? I think it will be. We've got a couple of good harbors, but they're just good, they're not great. In terms of starting tiles, this deer, this tile here, and this stone tile are our 3 best tiles, so we want to move probably towards those. Okay, we'll go to the next turn. So I think this is a lake. Yes. Okay, so I've got another city down here. Okay, so it doesn't look like we're going to get... we don't have very many good tiles. I feel like we should be working a 2-2 tile. Okay, so I've got a volcano over here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Here or here. This tile's better because because the expanse will be the deer and quarry, which are our 2 next best tiles. It's better than here, where we'll only get 1. Whatever's on the other side of this mountain will be hard to improve. I think... Okay. Don't think that changes anything. Might be a dam eventually. Alright, we'll probably have to bite the bullet and found the city. We've sort of committed to this. I mean, it would grow really fast. I think we want production. Alright, we're gonna found. Probably not the best thing in the world, but let's see what happens. Let's hope that we have a city-state down here. Okay, so we've founded the first city. We've got the tech shuffle mod on. We need to find horses as early as possible. We've got a bit of production. We don't have anything we can improve. I think we're gonna want monument. We want to try and get a religion. So ideally we can find a natural wonder somewhere. That does make mining, because it reveals two. Okay, so if we get mining, it's going to reveal these two, as opposed to animal husbandry, which only reveals one. So let's get mining, actually. Because we need to find... we want chariots, so we can upgrade it into winged hussars. We need horses. Actually, no, winged hussar... What resource is it going to be? Let's just... Iron? Iron. Okay, we actually want iron working for those. Okay, so we're going to go into story mode. We will return for some strategy at the end of this. Why is it -5? Oh no, +5. Not reading the screen properly. We will return for some strategy at the end of the Ancient Era, beginning of the Classical. So, it is early in the Ancient Era, and the foundation myth of Krakow is believed to have, if true, occurred at some point very early in the history of the world, in fact. So Krakow is said to have been founded by Krakus, who was considered a legendary mythical leader of Poland. But the foundation myth is that Krakus slew a dragon that dwelled in Lake Mamre, which you can see here. He slew this dragon. He fed it a poisoned deer. So it is said that Krakus originally was a fisherman, and that Krakus traveled to the south, and on his way south, he managed to pick up some deer, and he got to Lake Mamre, and the locals were talking about how there was this dragon, and it was a very dangerous area. So he went to the dragon and offered the dragon some deer to eat, and the dragon ate the deer, and it turned out that Krakus had poisoned the deer, so he killed the dragon that way. After killing the dragon, Krakow is believed to have begun to flourish as a trade center, Lake Mamre being one of the only sources of fresh water in the area. Meant that people were just naturally attracted to it. The nearby mountains also funneling trade to Krakow. Okay, so we're about halfway through the Ancient Era, and it's believed to be around the time of Wanda, who is believed to have been a Polish princess. So Wanda, her father died, and she was the only heir. In Polish culture at the time, to have a female ruler was quite unusual. So there was a bit of conflict between the nobles as to whether Wanda should ascend to be the leader of the Poles. And this allowed the Alemanni to send an invasion force through the Ostrixka Pass, which you can see here. The invasion force on the way was eliminated by a fortunate eruption of the Ostrixka volcano, which you can see in the south there, in the bottom left of screen. Wanda, whose forces were hiding in the Mamre forest, upon seeing the destruction of the Alemanni and the warriors, offered those that did survive refuge in exchange for going to the Alemanni camp and just de-escalating the situation, concluding a favorable peace for the Polish people. No. Which, as you can see, she did so, thus vanquishing the threat of the Alemanni for many generations. And that is the story of Wanda. It's not. We are unsure if this was an actual historical account or not. There is evidence of warfare between the Alemanni and the Polish, but the specifics, was there a Wanda or not, is unknown. What is known, though, is at least the weight that if this was a myth, it still established the fact that you could have a female ruler of Poland. So after the defeat of the Alemanni, which was obviously on the west side of the Bokowice range, we have the first evidence of a settlement at Radom. Radom is traditionally the name of the town that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Attributed to being founded by Queen Wanda at this point in time. So after defeating the Alemanni, using her guile and her diplomacy, she convinced the local Alemanni that a Polish center of Polish just governance in general would be a good idea, and that the Poles could protect them from the potential Scythian incursions. Also, at this point in history, it's also worth noting that as a result of the Ostrixka volcano having erupted during her lifetime, the Alemanni, the pagans that they were, believed that Wanda somehow had control over when and if and when this volcano would erupt. And this helped her to no end in negotiating the settlement of Radom. So it is the late ancient era, around the time of Lesko I. Now, Lesko I was originally a goldsmith. So what was happening in Poland at this time? There was a lot of unrest. There was no real clear leadership. The previous ruler of Krakow was widely derided as being quite a cruel and just an ineffective ruler. And he managed to provoke a Scythian invasion, the first Scythian invasion. Around the same time, though, we've also got Russia, literally the same year, seeing Scythia, what's the word I'm looking for, commit their forces against Poland. The Russians thought it would be a good time to invade Scythia. So Scythia ends up fighting a two-front war. But anyway, back to the story. So it's around the time of Lesko I, who was originally a goldsmith, and he used his skills to equip a small band of Polish defenders to defend Krakow from the Scythian advance. So we have the opening moves by Lesko the First. So the first thing Lesko did was pray to the Phyraxian gods about whether this archer unit here could actually shoot the slinger or not, because it's not really clear. So on a hill there's rough terrain, but it's not a hill, and then there's no rough terrain but a hill. Do the trees still block the arrows? I don't know. Lesko didn't know. So Lesko did like a visiony thing, and it turned out that yes, he could get shot from there. And with this knowledge, or at least the visionary, told him that he could get shot from there, which caused him to retreat. His forces, like so, and wait for the Scythian advance in the fortress of Krakow. So after Lesko's retreat to the fortress of Krakow, they began to bombard the enemy. The magic Scythian archers that managed to teleport through the Bukowice range they went through the Ostrixka pass and magically ended up on this tile over here. I don't know how that works, but once again, which causes me great problems. This is a hill tile, so he should not be able to shoot to this tile. Which means that's safe. So here we have Lesko's the first final stand, sending forward some heavy infantry, heavily outnumbered by the Scythian opponents. And now we have the result of Lesko the First's bravery. This allowed the Polish to break out of Krakow and defeat the Scythian contingent that had magically crossed the Bukowice range on the declaration of war. Thus defeating, so that pretty much ended the threat to Krakow itself.